The invention of the airplane and other forms of modern aircraft advanced our society's mobility unlike any other. However, a skilled and elite pilot is essential to the success of any flight. Throughout this time, daring pilots have flown the airways for fun, war or commercial purposes. That brings us to our present discussion of who do you feel is the greatest pilot in history. Many of these individuals became world-renowned after fighting in the skies during World War II. Others became famous for attempting incredible landings and crossing oceans. Here is the list of the 5 most elite aircraft pilots in history. But before we jump into number 1, be sure that you have subscribed and hit the bell icon to keep yourself informed with amazing videos. With that said, let's jump into our incredible list. Chesley Sullenberger. Sully. We cannot fail to mention Chesley Sullenberger in our list, as he is a modern-day hero for his expert aviation skills. From 1973 to 1980, he was a fighter pilot in the United States Air Force. After this, Sully became a commercial pilot for Pacific Southwest Airways in 1980. On July 15, 2009, Captain Sullenberger made international headlines when he had to put all his safety training to use when a flock of Canadian geese struck his U.S. Airways airliner, Flight 1549, during liftoff and damaged both engines. Sullenberger had to decide quickly the best way to land the plane to save his passengers. He decided that his only course of action was to perform an emergency water landing in the Hudson River. All 155 passengers survived with just a few suffering injuries. In true captain fashion, Sully exited the plane last. Sullenberger is now a speaker on aviation safety and has helped develop new protocols for safety aboard airlines. He has also served as co-chairman of the Experimental Aircraft Association's Young Eagles program, which introduces youth to aviation careers. In 2009, Sullenberger was listed among Time magazine's most influential heroes and icons. He has also earned a Master's Medal from the Guild of Air Pilots and Air Navigators and has been presented the Key to the City from New York City. He retired from his career as a commercial pilot in March of 2010. Erich Hartmann. Erich Hartmann became famous as a fighter pilot during World War II. Hartmann was a German fighter pilot who eventually became to be known as the best in history. Erich Hartmann has the distinction of being the most successful fighter pilot in World War II by flying 1,404 missions where he achieved 352 victories, including 7 American fighters. On top of all this, Erich's plane was never shot down. The only 16 times his plane was forced to crash land was for mechanical issues or lack of fuel. His record set him on the list of top pilots ahead of Richthofen, who was number 1 before Hartmann's accomplishments. As such, he earned the title of the greatest ace of all time. Hartmann started flying gliders as a teenager and later enlisted in the Luftwaffe, where he excelled at gunnery. Pairing these two skills made him a proficient fighter pilot. He completed his pilot training in 1942, just in time to fight for Nazi Germany in the war, fighting up until the day the Germans surrendered to the Allies. Towards the end of the war, Erich was imprisoned by the Soviets for 10 years. In 1997, the Russian Federation posthumously dropped the war crime charges against him. After his release, he went on to command the 1st Jet Fighter Unit in West Germany. He later retired in 1970 and became a flight instructor until he died at the age of 71 in 1993. Charles Yeager. Charles Yeager is a retired U.S. Air Force officer and fighter pilot. In 1947, he became the first pilot in history to have traveled at the speed of sound, reaching Mach 1.7 speed in the Bell X-1 rocket in a level flight. Like others on this list, he attained the rank of brigadier general, fighting in both World War II and the Vietnam War. He has been awarded the Air Force Distinguished Service Medal, the Army Distinguished Service Medal, 2 Silver Stars, a Bronze Star, 2 Legions of Merit, 3 Distinguished Flying Cross Awards, and a Purple Heart. Interestingly enough, Yeager suffered from airsickness before becoming a United States Army fighter pilot during World War II. First serving as an aircraft mechanic, he became a pilot and went on to take down a dozen of German fighter planes, including the first jet fighter. Yeager also holds the honor of flying the United States' first jet fighter plane, the Bell P-59. Yeager retired from the service in 1975, and he was living in Northern California before his death in the afternoon of December 7, 2020, at the age of 97 years.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, drop. And he does it, the first human to crack the sound barrier.
James Doolittle. General James Doolittle was much more than just a great pilot, as he was also a combat leader and aeronautical engineer over his lifetime. Best known for his 1922 solo crossing of the continental United States, Lieutenant James Doolittle was an expert pilot who gained experience as an American military general and pilot. He made his famous cross-continental journey in less than 24 hours. Since his teenage years, Doolittle had began attempts at flight. He would build his own gliders and jump off of cliffs with them. Never deterred by the wreckage or potential injuries, he would jump again and again. His Army career spanned from 1917 to 1930. The first time around, where he had flight training and moved up to the rank of second lieutenant. He performed the first flight using just instruments in 1928. In 1930, he resigned from the Army, but in 1940, the Army recalled him to duty. He is most famous for the Doolittle raid that occurred in 1942, after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Doolittle trained a group of pilots to fly 16 U.S. bombers to bomb Tokyo and other important Japanese cities on April 18, 1942. After the raid, the planes were low on fuel, and the crews had to crash land or bail out in China and the Soviet Union, where locals rescued them. The Doolittle raid negatively affected the morale of the Japanese to the point that Doolittle received accommodation for it. Wilbur and Orville Wright. Perhaps the most famous of all pilots, Orville and Wilbur Wright are known as flight pioneers. The Wright brothers invented, built, and flew the world's first successful motorized airplane. The Wright Flyer took off December 17, 1903, near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The brothers also invented aircraft controls, making fixed-wing flights possible. The Wright brothers were known for their reliable methods of pilot control, which differs from other inventors who had focused primarily on building larger, faster engines in hopes of getting planes off the ground. Additionally, the brothers became experts in wing and propeller development. While there is some historical dispute of when and how the first airplane was invented, Orville and Wilbur Wright still maintain the title of inventors of the airplane, which would never have been possible without skilled pilots.